Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Coffee and Current Events, and today we have a very important update for you guys. We're going to be discussing, once again, a Ukraine war update, and we're going to be discussing the 2022 Ukrainian Kharkiv counteroffensive. Now, we discussed the Kharkiv counteroffensive in our previous video, and frankly, I believe that's the biggest victory Ukraine has had ever since the Battle of Kiev when they stopped the Russians from taking their capital. But ever since then, it's been a very slow attritional war, which the Russians love attritional warfare. But up until now, Ukraine has made a serious breakthrough at Kharkiv, recovering almost the entirety of the Kharkiv Oblast and driving the Russians practically out of it. And it seems as of now that Russians are going to order a full withdrawal from the remaining of the Kharkiv Oblast they control right here. As you can see next to the city of Kyiv-Shanika and Borova right there. Those are going to withdraw from that area as the Ukrainians have a pin right Kupiansk and Severodonetsk right here. Okay, now I have some big news for you guys. Check this out. Okay, so it looks like Russia is actually withdrawing from much of their territory in the Luhansk Oblast. And if this is true, this makes Russia's defeat in the war extremely more likely, simply because withdrawing from the Luhansk Oblast will give Ukraine too much of a foothold. And if you actually look at the way these two oblasts are stationed, you have Luhansk right here. You have Donetsk down here. Now, if the Ukrainians are able to gain a serious foothold in Donetsk, they will be able to hinder almost all Russian supplies coming from Russia, coming from this angle right here. As you can see, that railway down there in Kupiansk was very important. Near Kupiansk, it was very important, and the Ukrainians captured Kupiansk, therefore preventing any Russian supplies from coming there. And here's a major issue: if Russia allows Ukraine to gain a foothold in the Luhansk Oblast, they will severely hinder their primary goals. Their goal, after all, is to liberate Donbass, but if you give up half of what you are trying to liberate, that's going to pose a serious problem to their goals. Another thing is they haven't even taken Donetsk, and they have some serious problems. They lost the Battle of Seversk, and the Battle of Soledar and Bakhmut seem to be a stalemate. Also, the Ukrainians recaptured the town of Ozern right there, and they recaptured the town of Severodonetsk right there. In other words, they're gaining ground. Right now, we have Lyman, which is currently contested, and Ukrainian forces are reportedly on the outskirts of Lysychansk. This is just going bad for the Russians, and there's no, even the pro-Russia propaganda can't even say it's going good for them right now. But according to this report, now granted, this is by the Luhansk Oblast governor, Serhiy Haidai. And as we know, he's obviously pro-Ukrainian, he's the governor of the Luhansk Oblast. But he did say this, okay? He said Kreminna right there, okay? The town of Kreminna. He said Kreminna was evacuated by Russian forces, and there are people in the Kreminna have hoisted the Ukrainian flag above the city. And if that's true, it means Russia evacuated this very key city in Kreminna. In other words, okay, if they evacuate Kreminna and the Russians and the Ukrainians take Lyman, they're going to be forced to abandon Yampil because they'll get surrounded. If the Ukrainians take Lyman and they take Kreminna, Yampil is going to fall. Also, according to Serhiy Haidai, the Russian forces have also fled the city of Starobilsk. Okay, and let me tell you why that's so important. Starobilsk is all the way right here. Now, here's the thing. If the Russians have really done something like that, that's a very, 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 very foolish maneuver, because you're abandoning so much of the Luhansk Oblast. Now, this is not confirmed yet, okay? But there have been reports they fled this area. Also, another town they've reportedly fled is the town of Savatov, right here. Right here, as you can see, and the one thing I will point out about these Ukrainian claims is they seem to line up. Let me explain why. If you look at this axis, you see Savatov right here, and you see Kreminna. Okay, this is all along the railway area. If the Russians evacuated Savatov, they likely have evacuated Kreminna, considering the Ukrainian counteroffensive near here, Severodonetsk, Lyman, and Ozern. Okay, if I let them evacuate Starobilsk, I don't know how legit that is. If they actually did that, this is really going bad for them. I will say this though: I take what the Russian Ministry of Defense said as partial evidence for what the Ukrainian governor claim. Let me explain. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that Russian forces are going to regroup in the Donetsk Oblast down here. That's what they're going to do. They're going to regroup here. That's what they said. So it is very possible that they are evacuating much of the Luhansk Oblast because their goal is to regroup in Donetsk and launch some kind of counteroffensive. I'd assume that's what they're trying to do. About their forces in Kharkiv, they're almost certainly going to withdraw. As you can see closely, the Ukrainians launched some kind of offensive near Borova right there. Smaller, but they had some kind of breakthrough. And as you can see near Kupiansk, the Russians really don't have too much places to stay here. They're probably going to evacuate the entirety of the Kharkiv Oblast. Once they do that, the Ukrainians are likely going to pursue them into Luhansk. Now, here's the thing. Let me be very clear. The Ukrainian offensive in Kharkiv, the speed in which it went is unlikely to happen in Luhansk, because Luhansk and Donetsk are heavily guarded by Russian forces. At least they're supposed to be, okay? So it's likely to be a lot more slower. But at this rate, the Ukrainians taking Severodonetsk, and then if they take Lyman, Russian forces are in serious trouble, okay? They can't get supply from Russia anymore because that railway has been stopped. The railway goes through Kupiansk, and Ukrainian forces recapture Kupiansk. They can't get supply through here because the Ukrainian forces recapture Izium. This is so key, and the Russian forces have some serious problems. Also, if you look at Severodonetsk, the Ukrainian forces drove the Russians on the other side of the river. Okay, that is not good. That is really bad for the Russians, okay? Because if they drove on the other side of the river, it's once again limiting Russia's offensive capabilities. We've already seen Russian forces, when they took the Luhansk Oblast, they were exhausted. The battles of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, the casualties on both sides were horrendous, and they were exhausted. And if any person, let me just say this, I see many people on different channels talking about, oh, this is just Western propaganda. Okay, not every Ukrainian victory is Western propaganda. That's practically impossible. And one thing I've noticed is every single person who's pro-Russia likes to use that. Well, here's the thing, face the facts both ways. If Ukraine's winning, face the facts. If Russia's winning, face the facts. Don't face what side you want to face. That's not that's not truth. And the truth is the Russian forces are exhausted, and that's obvious. They were in the Battle of Seversk for over 2 months, and they did not take the city. Okay, at Soledar and Bakhmut, they still have not taken these cities. There's no evidence they made significant gains in any of these cities, especially Bakhmut. Okay, and now their attack on Sloviansk is now practically impossible because they lost the town of Ozern and Severodonetsk, meaning the Russians will have to come through there to attack Sloviansk, especially with Ukrainians making serious gains around the Izium area. So now the attack on Donetsk may be stalled indefinitely. If they really did abandon all those towns in Luhansk, this is bad news for the Russians. This is very bad news. Putin is really being cornered. He's cornered, okay? And he really only has 3 options. He can either negotiate with Ukraine, which is probably what most Russians are pressuring for. There's already Russians calling for him to be removed from office and charged with treason, okay? He can negotiate with Ukraine. He can call for general mobilization, meaning he mobilizes the full might of the Russian forces. And if he does that, Russia has a chance. The problem is, by the time Russia's forces mobilize, it will be late in 2023, if not 2024, and Ukraine will have a lot more of their forces ready. Okay, Ukraine, according to Zelensky, has over 700,000 personnel mobilized. Now back there in May. According to Alexei Reznikov, he says something like 1 million personnel, including military and police. And if the Western countries give them aid to equip all those soldiers, you're talking about a juggernaut army of 1 million personnel. And so Russia's general mobilization really won't help with that. Or he can use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine, which is highly unlikely considering the horrific response he would get. If he used tactical nukes in Ukraine, they would certainly affect Russia and may cause Putin to get overthrown, and it would also affect NATO nations, causing NATO to get involved in the war. So Putin's cornered. I will keep you guys updated on what's going to happen, what's happening next. If you want more information on this, watch my previous video, because I really broke the entire Kharkiv counteroffensive, the entire offensive, the diversion offensive that's going down here in Kherson. I broke that down. So if you guys want more information, check out my previous video. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe for more content like this. God bless. Share this video with a friend, and make sure you stay tuned for our next video. See you next time.